At the pass of Thermopylae, at the entrance of the narrow strait, 300 Spartan warriors stood silently. Before them was the Persian army stretching to the horizon. 1,000,000 soldiers, perhaps more. Their arrows were so numerous they would block out the sun. The Spartan commander Leonidas laughed and said, "All the better, we shall fight in the shade." The warrior at the front, the man in the crimson cloak with the bronze helmet, gripped his spear tightly. This man was Leonidas, king of Sparta, and he knew he was about to die. But when he turned back and looked at his men, he smiled. "Spartans, tonight we dine in hell," he roared. A war cry rose from 300 throats. History was about to witness the greatest story of heroism. On that hot August day in 480 BC, the course of world history would change. A handful of Spartans would challenge the giant Persian Empire, would die for freedom, and would become immortal. So who was this Leonidas? How did he stand against 1,000,000 with 300 men? What really happened at Thermopylae? Dear followers, tonight I will share with you the legendary story of Spartan King Leonidas and the 300 Spartans. If you love the stories of history's bravest warriors, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. In the comments, be sure to write which ancient hero you want to hear about. If you're ready, let's dim the lights and dive into the harsh world of 6th century BC Sparta, into Leonidas's epic of heroism. Around 540 BC, a prince was born in Sparta. His name was Leonidas, meaning descended from lions. His father was King Anaxandridas. His mother was the second wife. Leonidas had 3 half-brothers, Cleomenes, Dorieus, and Cleombrotus. He was third in line to the throne, so no one thought he would become king. This was actually an advantage, because Leonidas would be raised like a normal Spartan. When he turned 7, like all Spartan boys, Leonidas was taken from his family and sent to the Agoge. The Agoge was the world's harshest military training system. Children learned to endure hunger, cold, pain. 1 tunic was given per year. They walked barefoot, slept on the ground. Food was insufficient. They learned to steal to survive. If caught, the punishment was not for stealing, but for being caught. The weak were eliminated. The strong survived. Leonidas became an excellent student in this system. At 12, he took his first test. He had to steal cheese from the altar of the temple of Artemis. The problem was, the altar was guarded by men with whips. Leonidas crawled close. Whip blows tore his back, but he made no sound. He took the cheese and returned. His back was covered in blood, but his face showed pride. The instructors approved. This boy would be a true Spartan. At 18, there was another test, a secret mission called Cryptia. Young Spartans hunted slaves, helots at night. This was both training and a method of terrifying the helots. Leonidas set out with a dagger. He hid in the mountains for a week, infiltrated helot villages at night. It is not known how many people he killed, but when he returned, he was now a complete warrior. At 20, he joined the Spartan army, took his place in the phalanx formation. Sparta at that time was the strongest land force in Greece. Spartan hoplites, heavy infantry soldiers, were known as invincible. Bronze armor, large shields, long spears. But their real strength was discipline. In phalanx formation, they fought shield to shield, shoulder to shoulder. A Spartan protected not only himself, but also the friend beside him. They would say, "Return with your shield or on it. Either come back victorious or dead." Leonidas's youth passed with wars. He fought against Argos, besieged Tegea, suppressed rebellions in Messenia. He stood out in every battle, was known for his courage and leadership. When he turned 30, he married. His wife, Gorgo, was actually the daughter of his half-brother Cleomenes. Gorgo was not an ordinary Spartan woman. She was intelligent, brave, understood politics. She became a perfect wife for Leonidas. In 490 BC, the great news came. The Persians had been defeated at Marathon. The Athenians had won an incredible victory. But everyone knew the Persians would return. King Darius had sworn revenge. Sparta was cautious. They had not sent soldiers to Marathon because there was a religious festival. They had been criticized for this decision. Leonidas had said then, "Our turn will come one day." In 489 BC, strange events began. King Cleomenes began to go mad. He was whipping himself, speaking nonsense, claiming he spoke with gods. One day he was found dead in his cell, had stabbed himself. Was it suicide, murder? No one knew. Dorieus had long since died while fighting in Sicily. The succession to the throne had come to Leonidas. At 40, an experienced warrior became king of Sparta. Leonidas was king of the Agiad dynasty in the two-king Sparta system. The other king was Leotychidas from the Eurypontid dynasty. The two-king system provided balance. When one went to war, the other stayed in Sparta. When Leonidas ascended the throne, the storm was approaching. Darius had died, but his son Xerxes was preparing an even larger army. He was coming to conquer all of Greece. In 481 BC, Persian ambassadors came to Greek cities. They wanted earth and water, symbols of submission. Many cities accepted. Resisting the Persians was madness. The ambassadors also came to Sparta. Leonidas met them. "Earth and water," they said. Leonidas laughed, took the ambassadors to the well. "Take as much earth and water as you want," he said, and threw them into the well. This was a declaration of war. In the spring of 480 BC, news began to arrive. Xerxes' army had crossed the Hellespont. Their numbers were incredible. Herodotus says 5 million, but this is exaggeration. Modern historians estimate between 200,000 and 600,000, still many times more than the total of Greek cities. 1,200 warships, 3,000 transport ships. The largest invasion force the world had ever seen. Greek cities gathered in Corinth. They debated what to do. Athens wanted to fight at sea with the fleet. Sparta wanted to fight on land. While the debates continued, Leonidas stood up. "Let us stop the Persians at Thermopylae," he said. Thermopylae, meaning hot gates, was a narrow pass where hot springs were located. One side was sea, the other mountains. At its narrowest point, only a wagon could pass. It was a perfect defensive position. But there was a problem. The Carnaia festival was approaching, Sparta's most sacred religious days. Fighting during this time was forbidden. The Spartan army could not move. Advisors said, "We'll go after the festival." Leonidas said, "Then it will be too late." After long debates, a solution was found. Leonidas would go with a small guard unit, 300 men, only 300. But these were not ordinary soldiers. Leonidas chose them specially. All had to have living sons, so their lineage would continue. All were experienced warriors from the elite Hippes unit. Among them was Leonidas, Sparta's bravest warrior. There were the brothers Alpheus and Maron, twins. They never separated. There was Dithyrambus, Leonidas' closest friend. Each was ready to die. Before setting out, Leonidas bid farewell to his wife Gorgo. Gorgo asked, "What do you command me?" Leonidas replied, "Find a good husband and bear good children." Both knew he would not return. Gorgo did not cry. Spartan women did not cry. She only gave her husband shield and said, "Return with this or on it." As they marched toward Thermopylae, soldiers from other Greek cities joined. 700 men from Thespiae, 400 from Thebes, 1,000 from Phocis. In total, they had become 7,000 men, few but determined. When they arrived at Thermopylae, there was an old wall built by the Phocians. Leonidas had it repaired immediately. They positioned themselves at the narrowest point of the pass. On the seaside, the Athenian fleet waited at Artemisium. When the first Persian scouts came, they were surprised. Were there so few soldiers? Reconnaissance units returned and reported to Xerxes. Xerxes laughed. "Wait 3 days, they will flee," he said. But the Spartans did not flee. They combed their hair, exercised as if they had come for a picnic. Xerxes could not understand. Demaratus, the exiled Spartan king, explained to him, "Spartans comb their hair before they die. They are preparing for battle." On the 4th day, Xerxes sent an envoy. "Lay down your arms. No harm will come to you. I will give you a place in my army. You will be rich." Leonidas's answer was brief. "Molon Labe, come and take them." Xerxes became angry. On the 5th day he gave the attack order. The first wave was Medes and Scythians, 5,000 men. They poured into the narrow pass, and the massacre began. The Spartan phalanx was like a wall. They were arranged in 3 rows, 2.5-meter-long spears, large bronze shields. The first row kneeling, shields on the ground, spears extended forward. The second row standing, spears extending over the first row. The third row reserve. As the Persians approached, they collided with the wall of spears. Their short swords could not reach the Spartan spears. The Spartans fought like machines. Stab with spear, pull back, stab again. When a Spartan got tired, the one behind took his place. They gave no opening. The Persians came in waves but could not pass. Corpses began to pile up. Blood flowed to the sea. By noon, 2,000 Persians had died. Only a few Spartans were wounded. Xerxes became angry. He sent his immortals, the 10,000-man elite unit, the best of the empire. Golden armor, long spears, perfect training. But in the narrow pass their numbers were useless. The Spartans applied a fake retreat tactic. They pretended to retreat. The immortals rushed forward. They suddenly turned and attacked. The immortals were scattered. Their commander, Hydarnes, gave the order to retreat. Xerxes rose from his throne. He could not believe it. His army was the world's most powerful army, but could not pass 300 Spartans. Night fell. Attacks stopped. Leonidas gathered his men. "You fought well, my brothers. But this is just the beginning. Tomorrow will be worse." Leonidas laughed. "Worse? Excellent." They all laughed. They were mocking death. The second day was even more violent. Xerxes tried different units: Sakai, Indians, Ethiopians. Each had different combat techniques, but none worked. The narrow pass was the Spartans' advantage. Toward noon, a spear pierced Leonidas's ear. Blood was flowing, but he continued fighting. One of the Alpheus brothers died. Maron went mad with revenge, killed 20 Persians alone. At sunset, the Persians retreated again. They had lost 5,000 dead. The Spartans and allies had lost only 100 men. Xerxes was desperate. His army was losing morale. The giant army being stopped by 300 men terrified the soldiers. "These are not men, they are gods," they whispered. That night a traitor came, a Greek named Ephialtes. He offered to show the Persians the mountain path for money. There was a secret trail that would bypass Thermopylae from behind. Xerxes rejoiced, sent Hydarnes and the immortals by this route. They set out at midnight. Leonidas had sent 1,000 Phocian soldiers to guard this path, but the Phocians fled when they saw the immortals. Leonidas gathered his men. "Brothers, today we will die. But how we die matters. Today we will go down in history. Today we will become immortal. Our children, our grandchildren, even 1,000 years from now will speak of us. They will say we died for freedom. Now let us fight one last time. Let us show the Persians how Spartans die." On the morning of the third day, Leonidas went on the offensive. They were no longer defending, they were attacking to die. They went out into the wide plain so they could kill more enemies. Leonidas was fighting at the front. He killed 2 Persian commanders, 2 of Xerxes' brothers, Abracomes and Hyperanthes. The Persians targeted Leonidas. An arrow pierced his shoulder. He broke it, continued fighting. A second arrow pierced his chest. He tried to break it but could not. Leonidas fell to his knees. With his last strength he roared, "For Sparta!" and collapsed to the ground. Spartans and Persians fought over the body. It changed hands 4 times. Finally, the Spartans recovered Leonidas's body. They withdrew to a small hill. They formed a circle. Their spears had broken. They fought with swords. Their swords broke. They fought with fists and teeth. Toward noon, Persian archers took position. Xerxes gave the order. Rain of arrows. Thousands of arrows rose into the air, blocked out the sun. What Leonidas had said came true. They were fighting in the shade. Arrows rained down. The Spartans raised their shields, but there were too many. They fell one by one. Last to stand was Leonidas. His body had 20 arrows in it. He fell to his knees, raised his head, looked at the Persians and laughed. The last arrow pierced his throat. Thermopylae was plunged into silence. 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians had died. On the ground were over 10,000 Persian corpses. Xerxes came to the battlefield. They showed him Leonidas's body. He had his head cut off, put on a spear, but his hands were trembling. He had won, but had actually lost. For 3 days, 300 men had stopped an army of 1,000,000. Leonidas's death was not in vain. Those 3 days were enough for Athens to be evacuated. The Greek fleet prepared. A month later at Salamis, the Persian fleet was destroyed. A year later at Plataea, the Persian army was defeated. Xerxes fled to Asia. Greece was saved. Western civilization was saved. Democracy, philosophy, science would live. All because of the sacrifice of 300 Spartans. After the battle, Leonidas's body was found and taken to Sparta. A great funeral ceremony was held. His wife Gorgo came with their sons. She did not cry, she was proud. A monument was erected at Thermopylae. On it was the famous line written by Simonides, "Stranger, go tell the Spartans that here, obedient to their commands, we lie." Leonidas became legend. Alexander grew up listening to his stories. The Romans took him as an example. Napoleon visited Thermopylae and said, "If I had 300 men like Leonidas, I would conquer the world." Modern Greece fought in the War of Independence, saying, "We are descendants of Leonidas." So that is the story of Leonidas, friends. The king who defied an empire with 300 men, died for freedom, was written in history in golden letters. The Spartans that day fought not only with their bodies, but also with their souls. They lost, but actually won. Because sometimes to be defeated is victory itself. Sometimes to die is the only way to become immortal. Dear viewers, I hope you enjoyed this epic story of Leonidas and the 300 Spartans. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think such a sacrifice is possible in the modern world? If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. If you turn on notifications, you will be instantly notified of new videos. In the next video, I will be with you with the story of another ancient hero. Take care until then.